Hello, hello. This is your friend Carlz with another casual conversation. Let me sort of begin with an insight to my own, I don't know, not story, but my own, I don't know, likings, my own hobbies. I don't know if it's a hobby. I've always loved the Transformers and robots in general. There's something about them that's just fun. How not the fact that they're machines, but how they move, how they combine, how they do stuff. Right? When I was a kid, I was like my dad would buy me like fake Transformers or like whatever. Like I don't know. Probably there's like a place in China where they just make them in bulk and like unused like plans. How do you call it? Like plans, like that thing that creates the toy, right? Like the blueprint, right? They probably have like a bunch of loose, unused blueprints, and some small factory, don't know, somewhere in China picks them up and they make them, and then they sold them to whatever country they want. And whenever I get a robot, like a plane that turned into a robot, a car that turned into a robot, everything that turned into a robot seemed cool to me. Well, of course, I knew about Transformers even back then because they were the main thing that turns into a robot in my life. Later, like more anime came in, but that's not the point. The point is, Transformers was born out of this childish, like, delight for things that turn into robots. And that was all good and dandy. I mean, it was just to buy toys. Jumpstart to Jumpstart, or just jump like what, 30 years later. And of course, I want to talk about the Bayformers. I think they're known now. The current, I think it's current Transformer franchise in the movies, right? This all came to be because like 2 or 3 weeks ago, the official Instagram for Transformers said it was Transformers Day. I had no freaking idea. It was, oh, this is Happy Transformers Day, and they announced some new toys. Well, okay, whatever. I was baffled. It's like, is it Transformers Day? One thing led to another, and I was like, remembering these movies, starting from Transformer from 2007, right, all the way to Rise of the Beast, like 2 years ago, 2023 or something. The point is, from the past almost 20 years since these movies have existed, like I remember bits and pieces, especially of one and two, and an ongoing joke in my life, not only in my life but with my brother who also loves Transformers, is that part 3, 4, and 5, being Dark of the Moon, Age of Extinction, and The Last Night, it's just movies that we don't remember. It's just how it goes. It's like, I don't remember these movies. What happened in them? Like, to me, one of my sort of favorite, in an ironic way, ironic memories of these movies was that when we watched The Last Night with my brother, we were like, what's going on? Like, who is this guy? What do they want to do? What is happening? Who is this character? Who, like, in my mind, especially these last three movies, made absolutely no sense. So, inspired by Transformers Day, I was like, okay, let's rewatch this shit. Of course, I didn't rewatch one and Revenge of the Fallen, which is the second one, because they are the ones that I've seen the most and the ones that I like the most for some reason. Maybe it was the novelty factor. But I rewatch um, 3, 4, 5, Bumblebee, and Rise of the Beast. Right? You're gonna make a distinction there. And I wanted to see them under a new eye, under a new perspective. I wanted to be positive about them because I thought these movies had taken this negative, sort of like toxic idea in my mind. They had a place in my mind that is shared with something that I always loved and something that I liked, which are robots and Transformers in particular. It's funny how in your mind those two things can take the same spot. Basically, it's Transformers, right? And I went into these movies and I tried to do something really particular this time. I went in them with a focus on seeing them as a whole, especially 1 through 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, especially 1 through 5, from Transformer to the Last Night. Why did I do this? I was inspired by the latest Transformers revival on the comics, published by Image Comics, created by Robert Kirkman, the creator of The Walking Dead, and he created the current Energon universe, which is something that Hasbro has tried to do in the movies as well, right? Spoiler alert. That's the Easter egg of Rise of the Beast, right? The possible introduction of G.I. Joe. And they tried to do how many G.I. Joe movies? I'm not going to talk about them, but they tried to do it as well. So, what I did was try to see these movies as an interconnected sci fi universe, which it might seem obvious. It might seem that it was something that they were trying to do. But if they were trying to do that, it didn't came through. That is like the point of revelation. Like if you see these 5 movies, you can totally see the argument of an interconnected sci-fi universe where Cybertron and Earth, planet Earth, have been related all the time. Like as I said, I was confused and rather like baffled by the Last Night, where they introduced this idea that not only if you combine Last Night with Age of Extinction, right? There's this idea that Transformers have been on Earth since like prehistoric time, and there's an ongoing story, right, of Earth having this first contact with Cybertron during Age of Extinction, and you have the whole Transformium sort of story arc that is the main metal that makes Transformer reaching Earth. You take that and you make the whole sort of way back from the Last Night and then being there throughout history, right? Then you go back to Dark of the Moon and having the Fallen as one of these weird enemies. Then you introduce one of the things in Age of Extinction, right? The what was it called? The guy that turned his face into a gun or whatever. But the point is, there is an ongoing story arc through all of these movies, which is not only decent, it is even kind of fun. Like these are all movies, so might as well spoiler it. During the Last Night, they sort of like move around the idea of Unicron, which they will later redo in Rise of the Beast in some way. I don't know. It gets confusing, but the point is that it works. It works, and it's something that basically was the heart and soul of Transformers. This sort of like interconnection between Cybertronians or Transformers and humans. Like under this prism, the ideas are even great. So, what happened? One of my main ideas that I take whenever I go when I watch movies is one of my favorite ideas, and it's the idea of balance. And I think perhaps that is the hardest thing to do. You have screenwriters, you have stories, and they had a great story. They had a great story. As I said, this is the new Prism, right? The first 5 films are an interconnected one story. You have an idea, you have a story, you have like this big universe, you have a bunch of characters, but you are making a movie, right? Like no, it's not a sideway, not a segue. It's a parenthesis. I'm watching the comedy The Studio, where you see like they by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. They parody the whole like movie production, and they talk about like a lot of producers and what else, like publicists and all of these things, right? All of these elements that are part of the movie making business, because it is a business. And that is when it clashes with the concept of balance. I think these movies like Focus, they I did I say like, they lack, not like lack. They like they they lack focus because of two things: the director and the time they were made. This focus is crucial because if you ask, like, not necessarily a Transformers fan or like a hardcore fan, like whatever, if you ask almost anyone, what do people remember about these movies? They don't remember the robots as much, but they remember, you guessed it, the humans. And I don't know. I'm not 100% sure about this. I don't know this for a fact, but I have a notion that maybe Michael Bay wrote the human parts in this, and the human parts are like the most delicate part of it. They are. They are the most delicate part of it, and with delicate I mean they have to be better made than the robot parts. It's almost unfair that people criticize the robot design so much and people were like so focused on it. I mean, I get it. As a collector, as a toy and robot fan, I get it. I get it. Like, even though I'm not a hater, I do like most of the designs. People lost focus on what could have made a good Transformers movie, which was the connection between the robots and the humans. So if you talk about the humans in the first five films, that's where you see the the pinpoint lack of balance. For example, the first protagonist, which is Sam Witwicky, played by what's his name, Shia LaBeouf. You have that shit, and you have their like weird attempt into making him into like a relatable character, but he ends up like falling for all the stereotypes and dumb shit of early 2000s characters. And it's not only bad, but it's distracting. If you think about all the humans that appear in the first three movies, what is the main issue with those humans? Not only that they appear too much, but what are they to show? What are they doing? Like, let's not talk about John Turturro's ridiculous character or like the obvious annoyance of a bunch of military men doing shit. Let's think about Transformers: Dark of the Moon, which appeared to be the turning point for Shia LaBeouf's character. In Dark of the Moon is the only Sam Witwicky movie where they try to do something with the character, and it stands up like crazy, like a monster, like him being sort of haunted by accomplishing so much and don't being recognized and feeling like he should be someone. Okay, that's good, but how does that relate to the robots? How does that relate to the Transformers? And that is when you see the weakness of this connection. You have the robot, you have the humans, and they are disjointed. They are disjointed, and they fall into this category of the robots living their own plot, even surrendering themselves to the plot. That's why in the first five movies, the robots have no personalities. They're just there, and you can see this later, right? And then you can see the reason why I'm dividing the 7 movies like this. The robots are disjointed. They are living this plot. Only Optimus Prime ever talks, and then you have the humans doing like a teen movie from the early 2000s. Then you have Age of Extinction and The Last Night, where they change the protagonist to the Marky Mark, right? I don't remember his name, Kager or something. You change it, and you see them trying to do what I'm criticizing about Sam. In Age of Extinction, they try to connect Marky Mark with Optimus, which is the only Transformer character, right? You can argue that Bumblebee is always there, but like they made him into a joke by not allowing him to talk, and just how can you create a character without talking? pin that for a couple of minutes. Then you have Marky Mark, and they try to make them like have him connect to Optimus. But what was the problem of Transformer 4 and 5? It was that the stories got way too big. The stories got way too big. Transformers 4 and Transformers 5 are huge movies. So much shit in them. So much shit happens. They go to like China and Europe, and like these are movies that are so big. But if we think all the way back to the beginning of my conversation, the overarching, or like the big story that I was trying to see them under as this big sci-fi interconnected universe is rather simple, right? The Transforming is on Earth 1, I mean in 4, and they were there during the Middle Ages 5, and they have sort of like affected different points of history, which is rather stupid, I gotta say. That is a rather stupid idea. Like when they show Bumblebee, like during World War II, which parenthesis was a cool toy. They show Bumblebee during World War II. That makes no sense. Like there's no way you could have hidden the fact that giant robots fought in World War II. Like this is just stupid. But anyways, the idea is believable, and sort of you can see it in a positive, under a positive light, with this sort of proposed argument that there's a big interconnected story between Cybertron and Earth and humans. But they keep pulling away. They keep pulling away. Like humans keep trying to pull away, and as I said, I'm not an insider. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I'm sure this has to do with Michael Bay or somebody pushing, let's call it the human agenda. There are way too many humans, and it would be okay if they related to the Transformers, if they related to this big idea of a big interconnection between Cybertronians and humans. But what do they do throughout the first 5 movies? What is the main connection between humans and Cybertronians during these 5 movies? It's hatred. They even repeat the same idea of like, okay, like military people now, they are hunting Transformers. They even repeat that idea. They make no effort to it. So then you get disjointed bodies that are supposed to be together, and they are held together by a couple of characters, which are sort of like in a volatile state. So even if in Age of Extinction, Marky Mark gets drawn into the fight in sort of like a half-assed way, you can still empathize a little bit, him being an inventor and like being the one that fixed Optimus. That is way more connection than he had with what's his name? Sam Witwicky. The whole matrix of leadership story arc during Transformer 1 and Transformer 2, it was okay, but like seems that, like, I don't know, it seems so arbitrary. There was really no connection between. Uh, I'm confusing Marky Mark with Shia. There was really no connection between Shia and the Transformers besides Casualty. I mean, it was a casual event that sort of interconnected them. But anyways, so you have these five first films, and you keep trying to be positive about them. This is what I did now. I wanted to be positive. I wanted to be there, but by the time you reach the last night, it's such a big movie, and the humans in it are like, what are they even doing? Like, was there really a need of going or tapping into so much of these annoying human tropes for creating these action comedies? That was Marvel's fault, of course, like 100%. 100%. They try to make all of these action teenage sort of movies with sci-fi, and but like the humans had to be dumb, and that is something that people will never forget. That is something people would never forget about these five movies. John Turturro being pissed on, Sam's parents being high. That is just dumb, and it breaks any attempt of positivity. And this judgment, it's clear and straightforward, and that is shown explicitly by the franchise itself when in 2018 they released Bumblebee. I'm not gonna hide my like for this movie. Bumblebee should have been the first movie of the franchise. Why? Because it's focused in what I said at the beginning, the interconnection between humans and Cybertronians. This movie is a movie that I remember clearly people like bashing and criticizing it. Like, this is just a ripoff of the Iron Giant. Like, who cares, man? Perhaps that idea of two different species, sort of becoming entangled or like finding this common ground based on emotion, is that such a bad thing? In Bumblebee, you can see how all of the bad things about the first five came to be. You can see the focus on the interconnection between the characters. You can see the downsizing of it. It's incredible to see in Bumblebee Transformers talking like people. That is no small thing. They talk like people. Well, they talk. The reduction of it was amazing. People keep remembering the redesign of the robots, which is cool and all, right? But what I remember the most, and this the last time I watched this movie, as I said a couple of weeks ago, I got teary-eyed. I got so emotional because that that on itself, that idea on itself, as I said, could have been the core of Transformers even since the beginning. Let's do a little parenthesis and remember Transformers the movie, right? The animated one. And making it all about a kid growing up with a Transformer and having an emotional connection. So spoiler, when eventually Optimus die, it sort of like hits the same to both of them. They are interconnected. And Haley Steinfeld in Bumblebee is so good. So part of me also needs to acknowledge that they intentionally, to me, they intentionally like set Bumblebee during the, I think it's the 80s. To me, it was 100% intentional to simplify the movie. They had to simplify the human beings, which is crazy. They had to simplify them to make them relatable. They had to simplify them to make them have a real emotional connection with the robots. Like, everything had to be simple. No internet, no stupid shit that this is hacking, I don't know what, hacking whatever. Like, all of the amount of crap that comes from the humans in the first five went away with the time. All of it. This guy is stealing MP3s, or like, look at my Cisco system computer being hacked, like that. All of that bullshit went away. And it was just about a girl and a robot. And Bumblebee showed that you can do this and not lose the action. You can do this and not lose the military macho bullshit, right? Played by John Cena in a really, like, kind of like, even even the military man played by John Cena, it's a reduced character, right? You don't have like a million military men, you just have one. And even he goes through an emotional connection with the robots. Like, I even got emotional at the end when he goes, "Hey, soldier." even then. But then, as Bumblebee ends, you realize that this sort of soft reboot of the franchise maybe came a little too, what is the saying? Too little, too late? Could be, but the point is that the way I see it, after the first 5, they did this soft reset with Bumblebee. There's no way you can erase all that happened before. There's no way. You need to sort of refresh the franchise, give it a fresh look. So when they release Rise of the Beast on 2023, it hasn't been that long. Rise of the Beast is sort of like Transformers, like the first 5, but under the Bumblebee prism, right? It's smaller, it has less characters, the humans, and there's a strong focus on the humans and the robots being connected somehow. And this is even explicit. This is why I went back thinking about the first 5, and I thought about this human and robot connection, because they did too. During Rise of the Beast, yeah, I'm just gonna spoil it. Like, at the end of the movie, the main character, I don't remember his name, but it's the guy that played Cloak in the Ironheart series. He even fuses with Mirage. They fuse together. Like, there's no stronger metaphor than that. Them dudes are fusing each other with each other. Like, they're literally being one. What is the thing that Optimus always says? Till all are one, or something like that. They're even fusing, so it's quite explicit. But the point is, you sort of taste the dangers of going too big again. During Rise of the Beast, you have the introduction of a lot of Maximals. For all of us that grew up in the 90s, of course, Beast Wars was a big thing, even though I think it's pretty boring. Now I think it's pretty boring. Like, shh, don't say it. Now I think it's pretty boring. But you get characters from the Maximals that they don't even get to talk. That's it. So you are tapping into that sort of storytelling again, dangerously. The big bad guy, the big, how can you say it, like the big sky beam, or like whatever. You're tapping really close and dangerously into what made the first 5 movies so arguably bad. This is dangerously close to that. The main sort of like argument that you can get out of it is that it actually lessens the hit. Having functional humans, that they are not all over the place, it actually lessens the hit of this big movie at the end. So, is this a good or a bad thing? Like, to be honest, I think personally these movies need to stay small. They need to stay small, but this is the irony of them existing. And this is the irony of many of these old syndicated shows that eventually try to become modern franchises. these are franchises and series, like animated series, that existed only to sell toys. Does that imply that they were necessarily bad? That's arguable. But in the case of the Transformers movies, that really hurts them. Having a Transformer for one frame only to sell the toy hurts them. And I think it's a proof of concept. I mean, that they have been successful, but it's a proof of concept that they are remembered under this critical prism and this like general dislike, because people know it by now. People know it by now. People know that if you put a transformer for one frame, like Jolt Energize, they know. They know that it's only for selling the toy, but you want to know more about them. So between Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast, we have seen that this equilibrium is being challenged again. But to me, it's a proof of concept that this base idea of humans and Cybertronians being connected in an emotional and argumental way works. Bumblebee is a proof of concept that that still works. Even if you argue that it's just an Iron Giant ripoff, like whatever. It's not like the Iron Giant ripoff is not like a ripoff of Frankenstein, or like, you know, it's not like something that it hasn't been done. So the final question is like, where do they go from here? Me personally, I have no idea. I have no idea, and they probably don't either, because if they did, they would be thinking about something else. Meanwhile, like, you have the whole animated shows keep going for kids, and like these kids shows, they have way less. I don't want to say they have less impact, but they are, let's just say, easier to be done, right? And they just are like, oh, there are some kids, like, I'm gonna learn how to brush my teeth or whatever. Like, perhaps that is the spot for Transformers. But as I said at the beginning, if we look at the interconnected energy universe in the comics, you are seeing there a proof of concept. You are seeing it there working. This is a big interconnected universe between Transformers, G.I. Joe, and some new IPs. It's an interconnected universe. You have like a big sci-fi world building between them. You have a focus on the connection between humans and Cybertronians, both in G.I. Joe and Transformers. You have the proof of concept, and well, they haven't shown so many characters if you want to sell toys. But is that a bad thing? Bumblebee did this creative sort of how can you say, like, advertisement by showing that it was like it was a flashback, right? There was a flashback on Cybertron where they show a bunch of characters fighting, but that was part of the plot, and that's how it works as well. If you would do it like in the current comic books, right? You would show Cybertron, you would show like only robots, and then you can sell all the fucking toys you want. Now that I think about it, is Transformers 1 part of this universe? I guess it's not, right? But anyways, what's the future for the live action Transformers saga? I have no idea. What do I want it to be? I want it to be not like an art house drama. Like, I know it's not gonna be like that, but it gives me hope. Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast, they give me hope that they learned something from it. That they sort of thought, okay, this is a take that we can do about this. Right? This is something that we can do in a more dramatic sort of, how can you say it, like dramatic, heartful, more human way if you want it. I don't know what's gonna come out of it. I really don't. And I think a big popular franchise like this is always gonna be attached to whatever trend is going in, like in the in the common, what do you say, among the people. I don't know, like the TikToks and the trends. Like it's inevitable. I was gonna say as Megatron says, but that is Agent Smith line, right? That is the sound of inevitability, whatever, Mr. Anderson. But anyways, I saw these movies under this new light, and I think I'm not gonna say they're like classics right now. I'm not gonna say they are great movies because they aren't, but I can see the good in them. I can see it. I can see it beyond the dumb humans. I can see it beyond the stupid action sequences full of humans jumping out of buildings, which I don't give a shit. I want to see robots. I don't want to see no fucking humans jumping out of buildings. Fucking like anyone can fucking do parkour now, and they jump from buildings, and I don't give a shit. I want to see robots. I can look beyond Optimus Prime being a Mortal Kombat character, which in my book is kind of cool, but like I can see beyond that. I can see beyond them trying to introduce a bunch of stupid robots that are just dumb and ugly, only to sell the toys. I can see behind all of that, because if you settle, like if you propose this universe and you let people live in them and have fun in them, it works. You only need to add a little bit more of humanity to make the connection more bearable and enjoyable, like we did it, well, like they did in Bumblebee. Who knows, man? Who knows what's the future for the live action Transformers saga is? I don't even care to Google it, to be honest. All I know that's probably Peter Cullen, the big voice for Optimus. He's probably not gonna be there. I don't know. He's like 90 or something. But anyways, that's my episode for today. Trying to look with a positive outlook, or a positive sort of prism, or a positive perspective for movies that, in my mind, have become like a virus, like a piece of mold that was festering in my mind. Now just have a little bit more love for them beyond the toys and the robots. I have a little bit more of love for them, especially for Bumblebee. I'm gonna be one of those that's gonna always, to death defend the fact that that should have been the first movie. That should have been the building block for everything that came later. It might, no, I was gonna say it would have made the Shia parts more bearable, but that would be a lie. They aren't. that scene with Ken Jeong, where they're like having quote unquote like sex in the office bathroom. Dude, they even have like freaking John Malkovich. It is so cringe. Oh, whatever, man. Transformers is now something that is gonna be with us forever, whether we like it or not. So let's just have hope that they are decent enough, and let's just have the positivity as fans and as people that grew up with these franchises to see the good in them. Because if you look hard enough, these movies are more than meets the eye. Ooh, I did it. I did it. My name is Optimus Prime, and I send this message to all Autobots taking refuge among the stars. We are here, and we are waiting. Cue Linkin Park. See you next time.